Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of iMeet. Today I'm meeting someone who's caused quite the stir at the Growth Actuary Summit this year with his TED-style talk, an actuary called Dominic Lee, who likes to be known as the Maverick actuary. Welcome to my channel, Dom. So, perhaps you can start off by introducing yourself to everyone.
Great, it's a pleasure to be with you, Paul, and great to meet you. So my name is Dominic. I am the Maverick actuary. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. I was a competitive swimmer for 14 years. At the age of 16, I enrolled in a private boarding school in the United States to help boost my chances of making the Olympic team in swimming. And I miss the team narrowly, after having a long and fulfilling career traveling the globe, competing, meeting some great people along the way. And then I decided to focus on academics. I discovered actuarial science, which I thought was the most practical application of a mathematical background. And I was also motivated by the challenge of taking exams. I got my degree in actuarial science, and I have 10 years of practical experience within property and casualty insurance, or general insurance as you know it, in the UK. And my personal mission, how I describe my personal mission, is really to unlock the power of the actuarial brand. As you know, it's very powerful, and I think we need to unlock it. And in my free time, well, I wouldn't say in my free time, just stuff I've integrated into my life. I really enjoy sports, reading, and making videos. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Excellent, thank you. So yeah, I noticed you called yourself the Maverick actuary. So I wonder if you could tell everyone why you call yourself that, and what your followers on social media can expect to learn from you.
That's a great question. When I think of a maverick, Paul, I think of three words. I think of bold, unconventional, and interesting. Let's break that down. Bold, first one. I believe that having big thinkers in the profession will increase the impact actuaries have by several orders of magnitude. If you think of it, actuaries are traditionally risk averse and apply knowledge narrowly instead of broadly, which I think vastly limits our impact. If you think of how we hire for jobs, how we solicit talent in the industry, we think of insurance versus consulting, line expertise, functional expertise. Thinking of risk on a larger scale, having bolder visions of how the actuarial skill set can be applied will expand our reach and increase our impact as actuaries. That's bold. Unconventional. I'd like to show that actuaries that they don't have to fit into a box, that there's room for them to dare, dream, and explore the world of risk, that their opinions are valid no matter how unconventional they might seem. And finally, interesting. Risk is intriguing, yet actuaries are often typecast as people who sit behind a screen and crunch numbers. Bringing personality and flair to a profession that's not traditionally appealing makes us more fun to work with and really increases our influence in spaces where we work. So that's how I think of it. And full disclosure, Paul, I consider you to be a maverick. You're taking the time to share your wisdom and experience in an unconventional way. You're using a modern communication medium, which I think benefits the profession. So definitely kudos to you on that. That's something I admire about you for sure. In terms of what you might be able to find on my channel, I found that most actuarial channels on social media focus on exams. While exams are table stakes, as you know, the price of admission into the actuarial profession, I'm a firm believer that we aren't defined by exams as actuaries. So my channel will bring a fresh perspective to actuarial science, approaching it from the business angle, filling what I believe to be a critical gap in the market. I'll focus on what it takes to be a more effective actuary: strategy, communication, sales, networking, and building a brand. So I describe my channel as a media-driven, high-octane approach to actuarial science that's quite different from what you might typically see. So there's a little bit of taste of things to come.
Wow, it sounds exciting, and thank you for including me as a maverick as well. So I hope I am helping lots of
For
people
sure, no problem.
being bold as well. In terms of the actual
Yes.
profession, you've definitely got some strong views, and I wonder if you'd like to share any of them with us now.
Yeah, sure. I'll share it in a basic analogy or framework. I'll sum it up like this. I'll just say I believe that a broader view of risk will launch a profession into the future, cementing its reputation as an influential force in society. And how I break this down is I think it's helpful to think of risk in three levels to help us understand the opportunity that presents itself. The first level, tolerance. Think, what does it cost to manage a downside of risk? That's insurance, where you typically see actuaries working today. But there's two other levels to risk. There's optimization. Question you ask yourself, is the reward worth the risk? See, the question gets a little bit more complex as you go up the scale. And if you think of ERM type problems, that's like an ERM type investment type problem. And then the third level, which I think is like kind of like the most profound level, is really the question you ask is, can risk generate reward? And I believe that emerging risks will employ structural changes that result in better infrastructure, smarter systems, and a host of other benefits for society. Today, most actuaries thrive in the tolerance space, and less actuaries play in the optimization and transformation spaces. Now, the changing risk landscape, advanced technologies, and big data present opportunities to shift from tolerance into optimization and transformation. Tolerance is foundational. Actuaries are always going to be in insurance. Shifting our mindset, having a more dynamic credentialing mechanism, and establishing a stronger brand will facilitate that shift and really, I believe, allow actuaries to spread their wings and just have more impact in society, which is what I alluded to earlier. So I think that little framework there, that little analogy summarizes my view on the profession going forward.
Interesting. And so what do you think then junior actuaries should be doing to upskill for this new future?
That's a really important question and a profound one. And I'll answer the question more broadly because I think it's important for junior actuaries to understand what behaviors might lead to success in the field as they look forward. And my answers might surprise you since I approach the profession through more of a business lens than most actuaries. I'll talk through four key skills I think that actuaries should pay attention to, and areas I think that we can certainly improve on. One of them is something you'll see is new, but four of them I think are really critical. The first one is sales, and I think of this in two parts. The first one is, how do you succinctly explain the results of an analysis? We do all this. We spend a lot of time on analysis, getting data, but how do you really explain it? For instance, if I do an analysis on auto or motor, as you say in Britain, and I say to my underwriter, okay, increases in auto liability losses are driven by distracted driving, higher medical costs, and attorney involvement. See, nice and simple. Breaks down my analysis in real simple terms. The second part to sales is, how do you influence stakeholders to act based on the results of your analysis? And you do that by giving reasons. For instance, if I say to an underwriter or a product partner, we need to increase rates by 4% on its own. Not as powerful, but if I give a reason, I say, we need to increase rates by 4% at a minimum because we expect losses to increase by 4% over the next year. Now you're giving them a compelling reason that's grounded in fact to really act. So that's sales. The second skill, strategic thinking. Two parts again. First part, producing smarter deliverables. Instead of making an analysis that's already not valuable, more efficient, that's something I've seen in the field many times. An actuary will take a process or analysis that's just been done for the past 10 years, and then they'll just make a quicker version of that. So instead of doing that, how about we rebuild the analysis to incorporate more meaningful metrics that lead to better decisions? So that's the first part, producing smarter deliverables. The second part is really knowing the right questions that need to be answered. And I'll use an illustration here. If an underwriter comes to me and says, my loss ratios are high, can you provide a list of the bad accounts? The first thing that implies is that the issue is losses, and that might steer the underwriters in the direction of risk selection. But what if I, as an actuary, take a look at the data, do the analysis, and then I notice three things. One, this is say a commercial property example, that the deductibles are $5,000 on average when they really should be $25,000. That they're using fixed dollar deductibles instead of percentage deductibles, and that facultative reinsurance is not being placed on the distress risks, which magnifies the impact of cat losses that happen. Now, by making those observations, those very distinct observations, that implies that the problem is really an exposure and a terms and conditions issue, as opposed to a loss issue, which is what the underwriters thought. So it's really understanding a problem and being able to know the right questions to answer so you can give the best advice. That's strategic thinking. The third one, which I think is a little bit new and more modern, is really what I call co-technician, being a good co-technician. So co-technician skills. Steve Bokansky is one of the speakers, was one of the speakers from Growth Actuary. And I thought, and he, to me at least, coined the term. And full disclosure, I'll say my views on technology are fundamentally different than most actuaries. I think that we as a profession need to move away from functional programming. You know, there are advanced technology solutions that can handle a lot of the mechanical tasks that actuaries are doing today. So I think co-technician skills, two parts to it: working with technology partners to accomplish two things, finding the most optimal solution for the task in order to maximize insights and minimize mechanics. For example, using a robotics process automation instead of building the macros yourself. So partnering with someone who understands the technology to use a more robust solution. And two is finding solutions that enhance actuarial analyses. For instance, using machine learning instead of manual inference to generate loss reserve indications. So yeah, that's three. Being a good co-technician, leveraging your technology partners to improve the actuarial work product. And then the fourth is operating in the gray, working with incomplete data. As you know, depending on the area of actuarial science you're working, especially when you're working with more new and emerging risks, you're going to have incomplete data or no data at all. So being able to make assumptions, put boundaries around monitoring those assumptions, understanding when your assumptions aren't holding, and understanding the risk of your assumptions being off. That, I think, is a fourth important skill, operating in the gray. So I've given junior actuaries 4 important skills to think about.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a hell of a lot of advice. So thank you very much, Dominic, for really giving people a great steer there.
You're welcome.
One other thing I noticed you gave really good advice was at your recent TED style talk, which went down incredibly well.
Sure.
I just wonder, what was your motivation behind that talk?
That's a really good question, and I have a very clear answer. I might spend a little bit of time on this. So it started with COVID, and my frustration with the lack of competent voices on risk-based topics from what I saw from my couch, as a lot of people perhaps did. When you think of COVID, I thought it was a multi-dimensional problem. We had a public health crisis that led to a commerce slowdown, which led to unemployment, which led to an existential crisis in government on how to provide relief. Actuaries are trained to understand interconnections between macroeconomic and microeconomic risk dynamics to put a cost on risk. But what do we see? We saw doctors on television a lot. Now, let me get this straight. Doctors are qualified, for sure, to opine on medicine and health risk. That's what they're qualified to do. But when multiple risks are at play, they don't have that skill. You know, their advice, in my opinion, really is predicated on the risks being independent. So they're looking at health risks in a vacuum without considering some of the other long-term risks that exist. When you looked at the coronavirus task force, the media panels, no actuaries or no one within that space. That's something that I noticed then. it just really bothered me that there were no informed voices who could contemplate that full spectrum of risk. So that's something that kind of got me going and really thinking of how actuaries as a profession could have more impact. That was the first thing, COVID. The second one is really, I almost say this nervously, I made a post on this recently, but I'm just being honest. I've never, within the 10 years or 14 years that I've been exposed to the profession, I've really never been inspired by an actuarial presentation. I've certainly been well informed. We have actuaries are extremely competent and intellectual, but I've really never felt energized and motivated to act. And at that time, I've been watching a lot of TED Talks. I've been watching, Dan Pink, Malcolm Gladwell, Bill Gates, and I noticed how effective the TED style was at really spreading a message. That's really the theme of TED: spreading ideas worth spreading. So I thought the timing was ideal with the Growth Actuary Summit coming up, and with that opportunity landing on my lap to really explore the TED style. I thought it would be a great opportunity. And then the third is really kind of somewhat related to the second, but us being in a pandemic for almost 18 months, I thought there was a lot of Zoom fatigue. I know we're on a Zoom call now out of necessity. So Zoom has its advantages. It's connecting us across geographies. But people, I thought, were just tired of seeing people kind of on a static screen, sitting on a chair on a couch. So I thought that being in a theater or having that feeling of a live theater experience would have been exciting for people. And really was a better way of holding their attention. So a few reasons there that really motivated this TED Talk.
Thank you. Yeah, and it did come across incredibly well. And like I said, a great stir caused throughout the profession. So well done there. Do you have any tips?
I appreciate that.
Do you have any tips for others who want to make their presentations as impactful as your TED style talk?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll actually have a bookshelf here. As you can see, I read a lot. But this Talk Like TED by Carmine Gallo, this to me is the best book on public speaking. I really studied that, while I was preparing for my TED Talk. But I think broadly speaking, for anyone giving presentations, it's a great find. But I'll give you three key tips that I got from that. The first one, which I probably already knew, but the presentation, it can't be said enough. Presentations are about the audience. They're not about you. They're not about the speaker. To tell the audience what they need to know and keep it brief. I'm sure we've all been in presentations that go on for a very long time, and we're thinking, okay, when is this going to be done so I can go and have lunch or something, right? So keep it brief and tell them what they need to know, not what you want them to know that you know. The second one, the rule of three. This is one of my favorite. The science suggests that we can only remember about 3 pieces of information in our short-term memory. If you can condense your thoughts into 3 simple words or ideas, your audience is far more likely to absorb and retain your message. If you think back to my TED Talk, 3 words were imagine, embrace, and explore. Hopefully you remember that, but if not, if you watch it again, I'm sure you'll see that. And then the third is really find creative ways to maximize attention and retention for your audience. Analogies, anecdotes, and props. You want your ideas to be sticky. You want people to remember them. I'll give you a quick illustration. You probably remember this. In the TED Talk, I was contrasting, like a scarcity versus growth mindset. And here I use these 2 kind of inland marine pieces of equipment. I said, this is a scissor lift, right? It goes up and down. And I said, it's symbolic of certainty, safety, and stability, right? Which is what you have with a more kind of a finite mindset. This, on the other hand, is a boom lift. And I said it goes up, out, and around. Get it to go around here. There it's stability, growth, and transformation. See, a little bit of an innovative spin on a message. It gives you something visual and visceral to remember, right? And that you can always associate with that. So that's the third tip. Find creative ways to make it sticky and easy to remember. So there you go. 3 tips.
That's fantastic, and good to see your. I hope I don't offend you calling them toys out again in this talk. So thanks for that.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, brilliant. loads of fantastic tips there. Just one last question for me, and it's quite interesting sometimes the answer to this question. So, who's your hero and why?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I thought about it, and initially I kept thinking of like historical figures, and I thought of professionals, and there are a number of individuals who I look up to. But my answer, it might surprise you, it just was very simple. My hero is really my grandmother, Muriel. She passed away in 2012. She was the kindest person I knew, and I'm a big believer in in being kind to others. Let's face it, life is tough, and we're only on this earth for a short time. And I believe that we can make each other's experience much more pleasant if we're kind to one another. A very simple answer, probably not what you expected, but I think sometimes a simple answer is the more powerful one, and that's what I thought.
Excellent, thank you. It's great to know that you're a kind person as well as an informed and giving person. So that's really great. And
I strive to be. We're not perfect, and I'm not perfect certainly. But I strive to be better each day.
Excellent. Yeah, we all realise that we're not perfect as we get older, but we try our best. So yeah. So just a quick note to say thank you, Dom. A really nice meeting you. Thank you very much for coming on my channel. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with everyone, and I hope everyone appreciates it too. If you are a viewer watching this,
you're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you got all the way through, please do hit that like button on this video to let other people know it's a good video that's definitely worth sharing out there. And please also do subscribe to my channel. It just helps me to know which videos you find interesting and encourages me to make more of those. If you haven't checked out Dom's talk, I really recommend you do. I'm going to put the link in the description. It's up on YouTube now. It'll be a great use of your time to hear his content as well as see all his tips for presentation in action. So do check that out. He's got various social media channels. I'll put details of all of those in the comments to this video. But thank you again, Dom, for your time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.